The Soviet deep space network was not built to explore space. It was built to maintain contact with a future that no longer exists. Construction of the network began in the late 1950s as part of the Soviet Union's early space program. Its purpose was not symbolic, it was functional. Large antenna complexes were built across Soviet territory to track spacecraft, relay commands, and receive telemetry from missions beyond Earth orbit. Inside these structures, massive parabolic dishes followed signals moving millions of kilometers through space. Data returned in narrow radio bands. Position, velocity, system status. The network still exists. The antennas remain. The structures are still standing. But the system they were built to support no longer has a program. The Soviet deep space network emerged from a specific historical condition, a global competition for technological and ideological dominance. Space was not a scientific frontier, it was a strategic one. The Soviet Union invested in deep space infrastructure to support interplanetary missions, lunar exploration, and long-duration probes. These missions required continuous communication. Commands had to be sent, telemetry had to be received, navigation had to be corrected in real time. The network was not designed for experimentation. It was designed for control. Each antenna complex functioned as part of a coordinated system. Signals passed between ground stations, mission control centers, and tracking facilities. The network did not produce discovery. It produced connection. Without it, spacecraft would become unreachable objects moving blindly through space. The system was built on a single assumption. The Soviet space program would continue indefinitely, not as a temporary initiative, not as a limited research effort, as permanent national infrastructure. The network was designed for expansion. Larger antennas, higher transmission power, more complex tracking capabilities. Its architecture assumed continuity, a stable political system, a stable funding structure, a stable institutional framework for space exploration. The deep space network was not modular. It was not flexible. It was built as long-term civilizational infrastructure. The system assumed a future in which the Soviet Union would remain a central actor in space. At its peak, the network supported interplanetary probes, lunar missions, deep space observation platforms, military and civilian satellites. Signals were routed through complexes such as Pluton in Crimea, one of the largest tracking facilities in the system. The antennas there were designed to maintain contact with spacecraft far beyond Earth orbit. Their scale reflected distance. The farther the probe, the larger the dish. The weaker the signal, the more infrastructure required. This created a structural asymmetry. The entire system existed to support objects that were not physically present. Its function depended on entities moving through empty space. The network was a system built to communicate with absence. The collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991 altered the network instantly. The political system that had financed, coordinated, and justified the infrastructure disappeared. There was no gradual transition, no staged reorganization. The institutions that governed the space program fragmented or dissolved. Budgets vanished. Strategic priorities shifted. The space missions stopped. The network lost its referent. The antennas remained operational. The hardware still existed. But the program that gave them meaning no longer did. The system was not shut down because it failed. It was shut down because the civilization that required it ceased to exist. In 1993, The final deep space tracking session at the Pluton complex was logged before operations were suspended. Today, large parts of the Soviet deep space network remain physically intact. Massive parabolic dishes still dominate the landscape. Control buildings still surround them. Cables, towers, and foundations remain in place. Some components have been partially repurposed, others are inactive. The system no longer performs continuous tracking. It does not support interplanetary missions. It does not relay telemetry. The infrastructure exists without an operational program. It has become a system in permanent standby. Systems like the Deep Space Network cannot easily be converted. Their design is too specific, their scale too large, their purpose too tightly bound to a particular political and technological context. The network was not built for generic research. It was built for a centralized, state-driven space program. Once that structure disappeared, the system had no alternative role embedded in its architecture. The antennas could not justify themselves independently. They required a mission ecosystem to remain relevant. Without spacecraft to track, the system became ontologically idle. The Soviet Deep Space Network now exists in a state of structural asymmetry. Its physical form remains. Its functional referent does not. The system was built to communicate with objects traveling beyond Earth. It now communicates with nothing. The antennas still point toward the sky, but there is no longer a program sending signals back. The network has outlived the future it was designed for. This creates a unique institutional condition. Not a ruin, not a failure, but a system that has survived its own historical context. Unlike many abandoned infrastructures, the Deep Space Network was not replaced. There was no successor system, no updated version. The collapse was not technological, it was civilizational. The system did not become obsolete because of innovation. It became obsolete because the society that required it no longer existed. This distinguishes it from most modern infrastructure failures. The network did not lose relevance due to efficiency or progress. It lost relevance because its entire world disappeared. The Soviet Deep Space Network was built to maintain communication with a permanent spacefaring future. That future never arrived. What remains is a communication system without a civilization, antennas without a program, infrastructure without a world to serve. Not broken, not destroyed, just disconnected from the historical condition that once gave it meaning.